What kind of insurance do we need to run our fund? I'm not an insurance person, and so an insurance person or an attorney could probably give you better advice on this than I can. But I'll give you a hint at some things that I know a little bit about regarding these things. So, number one, the fund is a standalone entity. So it's not a bad idea for the fund to have an insurance policy for itself. Certainly, every property that you have for the fund needs to have its own policy. So if something goes wrong with any of those properties are insured. That would be property coverage as well as liability coverage in case somebody slips, falls, has an accident. Those are the things that could really cause a big problem. Sometimes people will do asset protection strategies, putting individual assets into their own LLC, and then that LLC is owned by the fund. So that might be a way of slowing down some liability. But you can insure these things. You can use different strategies. Insurance people and attorneys typically are very good at putting these kinds of programs together. You also might consider having some kind of an umbrella policy for the fund. You also might consider errors and omissions insurance or directors and officers insurance for the fund manager. It's very expensive. D&O insurance, E&O insurance, those kinds of policies, they work a little bit differently than how people think. So if you're going to get those kinds of policies, make sure that you understand it. Make sure you understand the way the coverage works. Make sure the way that you understand how to make a claim, because multiple people making a claim on the same entity could cause a run on the insurance, and then it wouldn't serve somebody the way that they think they're supposed to get served. So these things can be a little bit complicated, but with some good guidance, you shouldn't have a problem. Now, the kind of insurance that does not belong in the fund would be overhead kinds of insurance. For example, let's say that the property management company had a bunch of property managers at different places, and you want to provide health insurance for some of those people. That would not be something that would go in the fund. That would go inside the property management company. My contention is that the fund should always stay away from having any kind of overhead. It's going to pay a property management fee, and out of that property management fee, the property management company then would pay whatever overhead it incurs. So if it buys cars, if it buys insurance, if it rents real estate, whatever it does, that's all the responsibility of the property management company, and then the fund would pay a fee for the management services that it buys from the property management company. So you want to be very careful not to mix those things up. The property management company has its own overhead, the fund has its own overhead, and you want to keep those things relatively separate. So if you do a good job with that, that will go a long way. Investors really don't want overhead growing into their fund. They really would prefer to pay fees for exactly what it is that they buy, and then your property management company can accumulate whatever overhead it needs to sustain itself. So the big insurances that you're going to need some property insurance. You're going to need potentially some liability insurance for the properties at each one, plus potentially for the fund, and then maybe some D&O or E&O insurance for the directors. I would say have somebody take a hard look at this for you, but those are the big pieces that you need to think about. And other than that, this is just a great business, so go out and stake your claim.